Now we've come a pretty long way so far in our journey. We've talked about why you have time poverty. And the main reason is because you're working too many hours. You're taking work home with you. You're spending too much time trying to make money to have time in your life for enjoyment. And we talked about the differences between people who are financially poor and people who are time poor. Do you remember that? We said financially poor people don't have money. But guess what? Time poor people do have time. We all get 24 hours a day, so that's it. You just got to maximize the value of those hours so that you can make enough money to then have your leisure time. Remember, our goal here is to have the income of a CEO and the lifestyle of a retiree. All right, let me take you to a really important point here, because remember, if you want to change your life, you have to change your life. And this is going to be a little bit of a hard concept for some of you, but I think you're going to like it. Look at the chart and graph we have up on the display right now. You'll see a bunch of numbers up there, and the way you read this is this way. Across the top of that chart is hours worked per week. You see it starts 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And then down the left-hand side is money you make per year. 25, 50, 100, 150, $500,000. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the hours you work per week, and I want you to take the salary you make per year and see where they meet. For example, suppose you're working 40 hours a week. I know, wouldn't that be nice? But suppose you're working 40 hours a week and you're getting paid $50,000 a year. You see where those two numbers meet? They meet $25 an hour. That means that if you work 40 hours a week and make $50,000 a year, your time is worth $25 an hour. Now, people say to me, well, I want to make more money so I can have the money to do the things I'd like to do with my family. We say, okay, great. All right, great. Now, the traditional way of doing it, the way most people do it, is they work more hours. In other words, they just go across that hour row on top there and instead of going down like the money column. What I want you to do is think about how do you make your time worth more money. In other words, if you want to make $100,000 a year and still only work 40 hours a week, your time has to be worth $50 an hour. But here's where people get stuck. They say, oh, my time is worth $25 an hour, so I do the things that people do when their time is worth $25 an hour. And if you want to move on, you've got to do the things that people whose time is worth $50 an hour do. See, that's a big difference. And remember, no one ever gives you a raise for work you're about to do. Your boss doesn't come in and say to you, look, you're not doing too well now, but we think you'll be better in the future, so why don't we give you a raise now so that when you do better, we'll catch up with you. See, that doesn't happen, and you can't do it for yourself. What you've got to do if you want to change is you've got to make your time more valuable right now so that your time, your income will catch up with your time later on. And that's when you start to realize that you have the time. In other words, if you're spending the same amount of time working, but you're doubled your income, guess what? Now you have time to enjoy yourself. You're not making more money by working more. You're making more money by making your time more valuable, therefore giving you time to free up time for your life and the things you really want to do. Now, let me ask you a question, because this goes to this whole concept here. Imagine this. You're making $50 an hour working 40 hours a week. Okay? Your boss comes in and says to you, I'm going to give you 10 hours of overtime each week, and I'm going to pay you $500 per hour for those 10 hours of overtime. Now I know this probably doesn't happen too often, but just imagine it did, okay? Your boss says, I'm going to give you $500 an hour for 10 hours of overtime each week. Well, your first thought is, okay, let me try that, and by the way, can I get any more hours at $500 an hour? Now, after a little while, you say to yourself, oh, you know what? I'm working 40 hours a week, and when I finish that, I can get to the really valuable time. So now what happens is, the next step is you say, hey, why don't I work 20 hours Monday and sleep 4 hours, and work 20 hours Tuesday, sleep 4 hours, so that I can be here Wednesday, work 10 hours, get $5,000, take the rest of the week off. And finally we say to ourselves, I'm making $500 an hour for overtime. Why don't I pay someone else? Listen to this. Why don't I pay someone else to work my first 40 hours for me so that I can make that $5,000 in 10 hours and skip the work I'm doing that's not really paying me that well? Folks, this is one of the big secrets to overcoming time poverty. Don't work more and expect to get more time. Work less, but make each of your hours more valuable. If you can make twice as much money or 3 times as much money working 10 hours a week as 40, guess what? Now you have money and time. And the whole rest of this talk today is going to tell you step by step by step just how to do that. It's the way to live. It's the income of a CEO, the lifestyle of a retiree, and ordinary men and women like you and me can do it if we just learn to think different. Remember, if you want to change your life, you have to change your life. All right, now we'll go on to some other concepts. I'm going to teach you now how to implement this step by step.